I'm here to discuss LeGarrette Blount. I made a decision on September 4th in consultation with my athletic director, President's University, and Larry Scott. And I'll reiterate again, that was my decision and my decision only, to suspend LeGarrette Blount for the season. I made it as harsh a penalty as I could so that he understood the ramifications of what was ahead of him. I did not make it an indefinite suspension at that time because I didn't want him coming to me every day and saying, when can I come back? At that time, though, I don't live in a vacuum. And I said on that day that there's not a manual for what went on. And I didn't make this decision by myself, so I reached out to a lot of people. People on this campus, my athletic director, our president, a lot of people gave me a lot of good counsel on this. I also reached out beyond this campus to people like Dr. Harry Edwards and Tony Dungy specifically to find out what's the best plan I should put in place for this young man. At that time, and that was September 4th, we started an open dialogue, myself and LeGarrette, about what he needs to do to change things around. At that time, I never gave him any indication that I was ever going to bring him back, because I didn't feel at that time that was necessary. He needed to prove to me that he wanted to change, and he wanted to make this situation right. On September 15th, Dr. Harry Edwards came up here, he spoke with our team, and he spent a lot of time with LeGarrette as an individual, and I wanted to get his take on what he felt about LG as a person. Because I see LG every day, and I know how I feel. And I can be tainted, because I do see him every day, and I do love LeGarrette. But I also know that the decisions have to be made in the best interest of himself and this football program. I also spent a lot of time myself with Dr. Harry Edwards. I've talked about this being a teachable moment. Not just a teachable moment for LeGarrette, it's a teachable moment for everybody on this football team, and specifically for me. I'll be the first one to tell you, I do not have all the answers, man. But if I don't have the answers, I'll go to people that can help me with them. And I really want to right now thank Dr. Edwards and Tony Dungy for their time, because they didn't have to help me, but they wanted to. And I really, truly appreciate both of those men and what they've done to help LeGarrette in this situation. After Dr. Edwards left, we started to put a plan in place for LeGarrette. That plan was finalized last Friday on September 25th. He signed a piece of paper in my office, I signed the same thing. And we made an agreement. And that agreement basically is that there are some academic and behavioral ladders that he has to climb for him to ever gain an opportunity to play football again. I am not reinstating LeGarrette Blount right now. Make sure everybody understands that. What we put in place is a plan that he will have the opportunity, and that date won't be at least until the Stanford game, that he could come back and play at this school. And the ladders in the plan that's in place is going to be kind of difficult. And now again, LeGarrette will fall under a microscope because everything he does will be judged. But as LeGarrette knows, and I know, this thing's entirely up to him. As we move forward, and reason that this was released this way, this is the first week of school. There's a lot of things that dealt with academic ladders that he has to climb. It really didn't mean anything until school started here at Oregon. So, I also wanted the opportunity to tell our team. And I didn't meet with our team because of the way everybody runs off the field and gets to class and all those other things till last night. And my players first and foremost. And the only decision I wrestled with is when do I announce it. So if anybody has any questions, I'm here.
Coach Kelly, with this announcement, are you admitting you made a mistake when you handed down punishment so quickly?
No. I made the right decision on September 4th, and you understand the gravity of the situation.
But you said absolutely he would not be playing
Yes.
for the Ducks.
But I also consulted with people, and I'm going to be the first to tell you that it's about, discipline to me is about one thing and one thing only, behavior improvement. It's not about punishment. We put a better plan in place for LeGarrette's behavior improvement. I'm not going to stick my head in the sand and be a stubborn person and say, I gave my word and that's the way it's going to be. And it's not a football decision, it's a human being decision. And it's about that individual. And he's got a lot of things that he's got to do. But it's on him.
But what does it say about your word? Should the team read into this at all? Just when you say one thing that you could change your mind later?
No, it says about the way I discipline our team is about behavior improvement. If you show behavior improvement, then I will address the situation. If we want to get into, is it my word or all those other things, that is inconsequential to me. What matters to me is LeGarrette Blount and the other 104 players in that room next door.
Chip, was LeGarrette's letter yesterday in the Oregon Daily Herald, was that part of the plan, part of the ladder you're talking about?
Yes.
Specifically, what are the requirements as part of this behavioral ladder you described?
We have academic and behavioral and football-related ladders that he's going to climb. I'm not going to get into specifics.
Are the academics different than what all the other players have to abide by?
No.
Coach, what have you seen from LeGarrette between the incident and deciding to give him this plan that has enabled you to put a plan like this and give him a chance?
I see a young man that knows that he did something wrong on September 3rd, and that he wants a chance to prove that he can do that. And that's what he proved. You know, he called me the afternoon of September 4th and said, "Coach, we need to get a hold of Coach Peterson." I never told him to do that. And to me, that was the first step, that things make sense to LeGarrette. He knows he did something wrong. He knows he did something very, very wrong. And we're giving him an opportunity. There's a distinct possibility he will never play football here again. But the ball is now in LeGarrette's court. And then once we get to that point, that I feel that he has fulfilled that plan, I'll do the same exact thing I did on September 4th. I will consult with our athletic director, I will consult with the president of the university, and I will consult with Larry Scott, the commissioner of the Pac-10, and say that it is my decision that we should bring him back. Will you guys allow us to do that?
Coach, you call this a teachable moment. If you could go back to September 4th, would you make the decision that quickly?
Yes.
Will you have said the strong language that he will not be
Yes.
playing again?
Because he needed to understand that, in my opinion, the reason I did it that way is if I said you're suspended for 4 games, I couldn't change that to a 12-game suspension. But if I said I suspended him for the season, he understands the ramifications of that.
Did your initial decision have to do with all of the elements at play? That it was rerun over and over on ESPN? That this was your first big game against Boise State?
No, my decision was based upon the incidents that occurred that evening. Whether it happened, whether it was on TV or didn't happen, I wouldn't have reacted any differently.
You mentioned Bellotti and the Riviere and Scott. What communications did you have with them, and what was the reaction of those 3 individuals specifically?
To putting a plan in place for LeGarrette?
Yeah.
Is that from our president is that first and foremost, on the first day when I met with the president on September 4th, is what do we do with the individual? There has to be a punishment meted out, but we're not going to throw people out on the street. That's not what we're all about. We are educators first and foremost.
Coach, how would you
And they have been in consultation, and Mike and President Rubio have been in consultation the entire time, and they're aware that this has been in place, and that I was going to bring people in from outside to be able to counsel LeGarrette and myself.
And the Pac-10, I mean, there were some pretty strong statements initially put out that seemed to back the strength of your initial reaction, and so I wonder, I mean, did they question this decision at all when you initially approached them with the idea?
Again, I will ask the Pac-10 for permission to bring him back. That's my decision. They can tell me no at that point in time.
Have you talked to Larry Scott about this?
Personally, no, I haven't. I know Mike Bellotti, our athletic director, has discussed this with Larry Scott. There's a chain of command that I go through. I go to Mike, and Mike talks to them. So.
Do you know what Larry and Mike,
That's a question for Mike.
Okay.
How would you characterize the reaction of the team to this plan?
Our team's fine last night. They knew about it. You know, they said the same thing. Ball's in LeGarrette's court. If LeGarrette proves that he deserves an opportunity to come back, then they're all for it. If he doesn't prove it, then LeGarrette has no one to blame except for himself.
How much input did his teammates have in this decision?
None.
What's the significance of the Stanford game? Why is that the first one?
Because it's a month out. You know, the incident happened to me on September 3rd. We're right around a month. Then he's got another month. It's a month of school too. You know, school just started for us on Tuesday, Rob. So, you know, it wasn't a. I can't obviously put some academic ladders in there and then be in 2 weeks of school and say everything's fine. So, you know, I felt like that was enough to get him. And it will also really be 7 or 8 game suspension. You know, if it was an NCAA violation and he was just suspended for fighting, it would have been 1 game with a maximum of 2.
Yeah,